Neurofeedback works, but the industry is disjointed and most providers and clients don't have a proven process they can trust. I'm Dianne Kosto, mom on a mission. I was introduced to neurofeedback to help my son because I needed something measurable, something that creates real change, not guesswork. I've delivered neurofeedback across dozens of locations, helped over 10,000 clients, and supported over a couple hundred businesses in implementing brain mapping and neurofeedback with a repeatable, data-driven system. I also wrote From Trauma to Triumph, a mom's mission with neurofeedback, on how this work transforms lives when it's done the right way. Welcome to the NeuroContrarian. So it started with a marketing email. Not from a random marketer, instead from a therapeutic program for young adults, a program I was aware of. And there it was, right in the subject line, in the body copy, woven into every claim they were making about their services. FDA registered technology. Immediately, I felt curious. A split second later, I felt deep concern. Because after 16 years in this field, training providers, supporting professionals, and serving families, I can say this with confidence that most people don't know what FDA registered actually means. They often assume it means the device and even the service being offered has some kind of FDA seal of approval. It doesn't. So I went to the therapeutic program's website, followed the trail to the company providing the technology being used for neurofeedback services. Then I found other programs using that same phrase, FDA registered, to market their services. And the more I looked, the more compelled I felt to write this edition of the NeuroContrarian. Because here's the thing, families are choosing where to turn for help, and practitioners are choosing what to trust based on those two words, FDA registered. They're spending money, they're choosing providers, they're placing hope in a phrase that sounds official. But FDA registered doesn't mean what most people think it means. I reached out to the FDA directly, hoping to speak with someone. I haven't heard back yet, but I'll keep you posted. But I did the research, and I have to share what I found because you deserve to know. Imagine you're a parent. A young adult is struggling. Maybe it's focus, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's coming out of a tough few years. You're looking for real answers and solutions. You find a program that sounds promising, and right there on the website, in bold on the top of the page, you read FDA registered technology. Next to claims that the technology can tell the difference between ADHD and anxiety, that it can detect electrical patterns in the brain from old concussions that MRIs miss. A parent reading this reasonably concludes the federal government has reviewed and endorsed this. They have not. That's where the problem begins. The diagnostic claims being made go far beyond what any cleared biofeedback device is authorized to say under its actual clearance language. Here's the uncomfortable truth. FDA registered does not mean what most people in this field and most families think it means. It does not mean the FDA reviewed the device. It does not mean the FDA tested it. It does not mean the FDA endorsed it for any particular use. Here's what it does mean. The company paid a fee and filed a form. That's it. Let that sink in. They filed a mandatory administrative form required of virtually every medical device business operating in the U.S. Directly from the FDA's own consumer guidance page, it says, when a facility registers its establishment and lists its devices, the resulting entity in the FDA's registration and listing database does not denote approval, clearance, or authorization of that facility or its medical devices. That's not my interpretation. That's the FDA's own words. And yet, FDA-registered technology is appearing in hero banners, marketing emails, sales materials across the neurofeedback field, and positioned as proof of safety, legitimacy, and federal endorsement. It's none of those things. This matters because professionals in private practice and in therapeutic programs and families deserve to know and should know what they're actually saying when they use this language. The neurofeedback field deserves better than having its credibility undermined by claims that don't hold up. The FDA has 3 very different levels of review for the medical devices. Most people use the words interchangeably. They're not interchangeable. Level 1, FDA approved, means a device went through a rigorous process called pre-market approval, PMA. This included independent clinical trials, comprehensive scientific review, and formal determination by the FDA that the device is safe and effective for a specific named use. Think cardiac implants, deep brain stimulators. This is the highest bar. Almost nothing in the neurofeedback or EEG biofeedback space qualifies. So if you hear FDA approved used to describe these systems, it's not accurate. FDA cleared means a device went through the 510(k) process. The manufacturer showed that the device is substantially equivalent to a previously cleared device with the same intended use and similar technology. This is the correct term when a device has gone through the 510(k). And several EEG biofeedback systems do have legitimate 510(k) clearance. But here's the part most people don't realize. Clearance comes with a specific intended use. For EEG biofeedback device, that cleared use is defined under Federal Regulation 21 CFR 882.5050. Relaxation training using alpha EEG biofeedback. Let me repeat. The intended use is relaxation training using alpha EEG biofeedback, not diagnosis, not treatment of specific conditions, not differentiating ADHD from anxiety, and not detecting TBI markers. Relaxation training. So yes, clearance is meaningful, but the scope is narrow. And marketing a cleared device for uses beyond that indication creates a problem, regardless of what the research suggests or what a clinician believes. Here's the important distinction. The FDA regulates devices and how they're marketed. Licensed clinicians may have more flexibility in how they apply tools within their scope, but device marketing must stay within the cleared indications. So cleared matters, but it does not mean approved. Level 3 is FDA registered. Simply means that the manufacturer filed an annual registration with the FDA required by law for virtually all medical device businesses. The FDA does not review, test, issue a certificate for the devices as part of this annual process. In fact, the FDA warns that using FDA registration certificates in a way that suggests a product review can be considered misbranding, which is a federal violation. So what does registration actually mean? A company filed a required form. That's it. And this is where the disconnect happens. When FDA registered technology appears next to claims about diagnosing conditions or identifying past injury, it is unsupported. What the reader assumes and what the phrase actually means are not the same. A mandatory filing, not a review, not validation, not endorsement. Families need accurate information. They deserve to know what they're really choosing, not what the wording may lead them to believe. They're often in a crisis, desperate for answers and spending more money than they have. I know this because that was once my family. And those are the families we've served for over a decade. This affects the field too. Therapeutic programs are already under scrutiny. When language implies FDA endorsement or suggests claims the FDA has not validated, it puts the field at greater risk. So let's be clear about what FDA registered actually means. You might be wondering why a company that provides neurofeedback systems and training is writing about this. And here's why. When I was searching for answers for my son and eventually drove across the country with a $22,000 system to try to help him, I wasn't thinking about regulation. I was thinking about my son. But everything I've built since then, every system, every training, every piece of Symmetry Neuro-Pathway training has been built around one purpose. People deserve the truth about what neurofeedback is. Neurofeedback is powerful. I have watched it change lives, including my son's, including my own. But it's not magic. It's not a diagnosis. It's not a cure. It's a technology-driven learning process for the brain that, when done correctly, with proper measurement, training, oversight, and realistic expectations, creates measurable, lasting change. That is extraordinary enough. We don't need to overstate it. And when we overstate it, when the words FDA registered becomes shorthand for federally endorsed and validated in a marketing email to desperate families, it hurts everyone. It hurts families who trusted the claim. It hurts practitioners and programs building credibility, one honest result at a time. And it hurts the families who haven't found neurofeedback yet, the ones who might discount the whole field if they feel misled by the ones who came first. I know what it feels like to be the family searching for the answers. That's why I care so much about making sure families know what they're actually choosing. So this is me saying we can do better. We must do better. The field is too important not to. If you work in the space as a practitioner, a program operator, or marketer, this is what accurate language looks like. If a device has 510K clearance, say this device is FDA cleared under 510K for relaxation training, not FDA approved or FDA registered as a quality claim. If a manufacturer is registered, the manufacturer is registered with the FDA as required by law. That's it. Not FDA registered technology as proof of safety or efficacy. For clinical work beyond relaxation, be clear about the distinction. Neurofeedback is used clinically by licensed practitioners within their scope of practice. Device clearance covers relaxation training. Clinical applications are part of the practitioner's professional judgment. What not to say: FDA approved for a cleared device. FDA certified. The FDA does not certify devices. For informed consent, tell clients what the device is cleared for. Tell them what you're doing clinically. Help them understand how relaxation training supports the clinical work you're doing. That's integrity, and integrity is what builds trust with families. If this raised questions for you, that's a good thing. That's where informed decisions begin. I put together a full reference document so you can do your own deep dive. It includes the primary sources, regulation citations, FDA database links, clearance numbers, and the quotes referenced in this issue. So, click the link. You can download the FDA regulatory reference document. If you're a practitioner and want to make sure your language is accurate, that's a conversation worth having. Clarity protects families, it protects practitioners, and it protects the field. If you've seen this language used in a way that gave you pause, hit reply and tell me what you've noticed. The field grows when we're willing to talk honestly with each other, even if that's difficult. Neurofeedback is powerful enough to stand on its own truth. We don't need to dress it up. We need to get it right, one brain at a time.